So how are we going to start the second half? Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 5 of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. Last time we had a pretty interesting one that wasn't about like monsters or aliens, but was more of a themed one, I guess you could say. An episode that touched on like beauty standards and the horror of like self-image issues and whatnot. And yeah, the lotion ended up becoming sentient and creating this like womanly figure and everything. It got weird, but it was definitely more about a message than anything about like unrealistic beauty standards and holding yourself into them and whatnot. And of course, it definitely delved into the horror realm with, our girl killing her husband, who was nothing but supportive and kind. Um, but yeah, it was wild, and the ending bit, like with the laughing and whatnot, was just like very eerie. It was interesting. I really enjoyed it though. And so now we go into the second half of the season. Um, I don't know what to expect because we've gotten some very different episodes. The first two were very similar in some ways, but in other ways also still very different. And now we could do anything still. Like there's so many options, so many paths to take. And I like that this series is kind of exploring a bunch of different routes. We go from like demons to again the rat queen and the zombie in episode 2. Episode 3 was aliens. Episode 4 was, the lotion and all. It's like what are we going to do next? Again, there's obviously a lot of options. There's a lot of different ways we could go with this. Is every episode going to be a completely different thing? Because I would very much welcome that. I feel like that would really sell the fact that this is an anthology by having every episode be an entirely kind of different concept with that. Plus, it would allow Guillermo and his team and all these other directors and writers and everything to kind of show off the diversity of their style. So I would love to see that as well, just in that regard. And I just want to see more of what this series can give us. It's a very unique, very interesting show, and I would love if a second season does end up happening. Because I could see this, like, honestly being, like, the horror equivalent of Black Mirror. And yes, Black Mirror does delve into horror to some degree itself, but it's more about the sci-fi part of it, for the most part, with a couple exceptions here and there. Black Mirror also is supposed to have another season coming out this year, too, by the way. So yeah, I could see this being like a horror equivalent of Black Mirror, where it just ends up becoming really big if they keep pushing it and all. Because Black Mirror also has a lot of big name celebrities guest star in episodes and everything. The last season had like Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, and oh, I'm trying to think of what her name was. I can't think of it. Was it Lupita Nyong'o? Maybe? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Um, but yeah, it's had a lot of a lot of actors throughout the seasons, and I think it's a fantastic series, and I'm hoping this ends up being kind of like that. There is also Love, Death, and Robots, but that one just isn't as good. That one's just not as good as these two have been. So let's get into this episode because I don't know what to expect from it. I don't know what we're going to get into. I don't know what the title is. Guillermo is going to tell us. And we'll see. We will see how it goes. This one is just over an hour long. I do know that. So it's bound to be a really good one. I feel like the best ones are the longer ones, the ones that are just like peaking over the hour mark. Um, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, most of them are kind of around that length. I think it was only the second one that was like notably shorter. Then again, we've only reacted to 4 up to now, so let's just get into this and see what we have in store. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So it seems like the witchcraft part of that was all kind of a bit of a red herring. Like, I'm thinking, like, pretty much this entire episode that the witchcraft thing was going to be a lot more important. And I think it was kind of to set the stage with the demon thing that we saw, the demon, the monster, whatever you want to call it. Because I think that's, like, connected to probably the witchcraft from all those, like, years and years and years ago. But we find out by the end that Pickman's art is paintings of stuff that is either stuff that is real or stuff that will occur in the future. Things that that Pickman has witnessed because of this demon that is, I guess, living in that well in his house. Which he seems to possibly be serving, kind of. That's kind of the vibe I got from it. Like, he's, like, serving under the demon. And that's why the demon takes him away after he's, shot and killed by Will. But the paintings themselves definitely have some kind of like demonic magic, for lack of a better word, or something to them, where anyone who views them is driven mad. They're driven to madness and insanity. And it seems like depending on how long and how often they view them, it has like continuous effects. Because Will views these paintings temporarily and everything, and we see how the madness overtakes him. We see it, like, it causes sickness, it causes him to see shit in real life, etc., etc. But we see, like, at the end, when he comes to stop his wife and son, they were looking at at what seemed like one specific painting for an elongated period of time. We don't know exactly how long, but they were just staring at it. And we see afterwards that his wife is driven insane. She gouges out her own eyes. She horrifically murders and cooks their son. Which, the fact that it, even though it was shadowed, the fact that they showed even just the outline of their kid's head in the oven, that's pretty fucking ballsy. I talked about this with, like, Terrifier 3 and everything. Not many shows or movies are willing to go that route, because even if it's not actively shown, the idea of, like, killing a kid is almost a taboo with a lot of horror media. It's seen as just going one step too far. Because kids are, you know, kind of seen as, for lack of a better way to put it, untouchable when it comes to that kind of stuff. Because kids are so innocent and need to be protected and everything, so a horror movie killing a kid seems fucked up, more so than like just killing an adult would, or even a teenager. Killing a kid, like especially like 10 and younger, is really hard to watch. And again, even if it doesn't show the murder itself, even if it just shows the aftermath, like this isn't as gruesome as like Terrifier 3 showing like the chopped up corpse of the boy at the beginning and everything or whatnot, stuff like that, but it's still pretty insane that they were willing to go that far. And I could see a lot of people possibly not liking this episode because of that, feeling that it did go too far. I actually have to give them kudos for just having the balls. Because my view on it, again, I believe I talked about this with Terrifier 3. My view on it is that more horror media should have that. I know it sounds really like harsh and everything. I know it sounds like bad, but why would children automatically have this like plot armor in a real life situation like this? It's like when you see the like zombie media, for example, why are there almost never child zombies? Realistically, there would be just as many child zombies running around as adult zombies. You would see them all the time. But you never see them outside of maybe one or two instances. Like there's one example in like Telltale's The Walking Dead. I know there's something else, but that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But it's like children usually have plot armor and those kind of things because they don't want to show a child zombie and whatnot because it's too sad. It's too upsetting. And I get it, but at the same time, it's like, realistically, it feels off. It always has. And I think more horror movies being willing to show kids, again, not necessarily showing the moment they're like killed violently and murdered, but showing that they did die and showing like pretty horrific ways for it to have happened too, I think is something that feels weirdly necessary at this point. Because with a lot of horror fans, let's be honest, myself included, I've talked about this, are getting very comfortable, desensitized to all the horror and gore out there. Like an average person who would like watch a Terrifier movie would be like extremely grossed out, maybe even puke from it and everything. But for someone like me who's seen a lot of horror films, who's seen a lot of gore effects, who's seen a lot of crazy shit, it's not really that shocking. I'm used to it. But when you throw in kids dying, it adds that little extra oomph that makes it more shocking again. It makes the horror stick out. Because you're not supposed to like any of the horror. That's the point. It's supposed to be terrifying. It's supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be upsetting. So if you get used to it and it doesn't really have that effect on you anymore, it's not going to succeed as horror. So the only logical step is for the directors and writers and everyone to step it up. To take it one step further and do something like this. Again, you don't have to show the kid being killed. You don't have to show like the moment the mother chops the kid's head off. Because that, again, clearly happened here. That happened in Terrifier 3 with Art killing the brother and all. But it's like, you don't have to show that moment. But showing that it did happen, it adds that extra layer of terror to the movie, show, etc. that you're watching. And I think that really helps make it feel fresher as well. Because like the concept of like a demon working through someone to do like some horrible shit and everything, not new. By any means. The idea of a person going mad because of this demonic bullshit going on, and seeing like something related to that, not new. The concepts here are very much rooted in things we've seen before. So in order to actually make this episode effective, to make it scary, to make it unsettling, to make it upsetting, you have to take it a step beyond. You have to do something that the audience isn't going to expect. You see the son earlier in the episode like start to have like the night terrors and everything after, being talked to by Stickman and all of that. And your thoughts regarding that are like, oh, well, he's gonna be okay, but he's, yeah, like, clearly going like crazy as well, and maybe not able to handle it as well because like he's younger and everything, his mind isn't fully developed. So you're thinking stuff like that. But then the final scene, it's like he's talking to his wife. She turns, obviously, there's going to be something wrong with her. And you're wondering at first if it's all in his head or not, but you soon realize it is not. She actually did this shit. She actually gouged out her own eyes and everything, and it's just insane and everything. But then it didn't even cross my mind to ask where James was. But then when Will asks it, it's like clicks in my head because he had been looking towards the oven and everything. It's like, oh. And it's like, did they actually go there? And then they did. They actually went there. And it shows the painting we saw before earlier in the episode. And it's like, oh. Plus it also kind of goes back to the entire, like, the Last Supper thing with the ancestor, the witch, with that painting and everything as well. Because there was a head on the table being served to them in that. And we even saw that in the nightmare that, was a recreation of that painting. So it's like, that's fucked. But it also was perfectly well set up. The acting in this was great. I looked up Ben Barnes because I swear I heard the name before. And he's been in a few things, but the only thing I would really know him for is he was Prince Caspian in the Chronicles of Narnia movies. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I definitely know you. I did see the Chronicles of Narnia movies. It's like, okay, I would not have even guessed that, but sure. And obviously Crispin Glover, I know Crispin Glover, obviously. So we continue with having some pretty great casting choices here. And just all the actors, even the ones I didn't know, did a great job. This one was one of the better ones. I don't know exactly how I'd rank it right now because it's like I've been kind of going back and forth on how I would rank these right now. I think I'm going to wait until like I finish the season to really like think about that again at that point, like to rank them all at once. I might even do a tier list for it. Because I think I'm going to kind of be going back and forth on a few things on a few of the episodes as I continue to think about them. And so by the time I finish, when like getting through the final episode, I'll like give it some real good thought and be able to come to like a kind of final consensus. I still want to say the first episode is my favorite though. It's like just the way that it caught me off guard and the way that it just like really impressed me. But this one was so good too. The alien one was really good. Last episode was really good. It's like pretty much all of them have been really good. The second one was definitely the weakest. I will say that. I'm pretty confident in that right now. But the rest of them, it's like, I'm not 100% on how exactly I'd rank them right now. Crispin Glover, like, again, I heard that he's apparently really hard to work with. But he is a great actor. He is so good. He is great at being creepy and weird and unsettling, and you don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy in this case. It's just unclear, like, exactly where his intentions lie, and that really gives you this kind of feeling of dread. The paintings were really well done. I wonder, like, who actually did the paintings for this, who they got to, like, do the art, because they were really well done, and I like the little effect they put on them to make them look like they're moving. It's kind of like this optical illusion thing, but we find out it's really not. It's demonic shit going on. Also, now we've had a second episode with demonic shit too. Very different kind, obviously, but still. The design in this, the demon itself, reminded me of that one creature from what is it called? Madness, something like that. No. You know that one stop motion film I reacted to, the one that was like being worked on for like a long, long time. I can't think of what it is. Let me see if I could look it up real quick. Stop motion horror films. It's a Mad God. I knew it was Mad something. There's this like creature in Mad God that's like kind of like the face of the film that people think about with this film. Um and the demon in this kind of looked like that to me. Yeah, Mad God came out a couple years back, 2021. I reacted to it. It's a very artsy film. It was directed by Phil Tippett, who's worked in a lot of like famous films like Jurassic Park and whatnot. Yeah, it was produced over a period of 30 years. It's stop motion. It's an experimental horror film, and it was just this really big deal. It got critical acclaim for the phenomenal stop motion work. I I didn't find it like super entertaining because it's like there's not really any dialogue and it's like there's not really a story to it. It's like conceptually phenomenal. And again, the stop motion is phenomenal. No complaints there. It's just I do like story and characters with my media, so it's a me thing. But yeah, Mad God, like it was a big passion project, and I just definitely see like some possible. Well, I don't even know if I could say there's inspiration because this only came out like a year after that, right? I mean, maybe there was some inspiration there somehow. But it's like the design of the demon here just reminded me of that. It was it was a really interesting design and very much stood out compared to the demon from episode 1. Very different kind of demon. Very different. And I'm glad. Like, if you're going to have demons be in two different episodes, at least make them very different in tone, style, look, etc. It's like that definitely is necessary. But yeah, I really like this one. This was intense, like, if nothing else. It was genuinely intense. The funny thing is, a lot of these issues could have probably been fixed a lot easier and just generally if Will knew how to fucking explain shit. Like if Will knew how to actually talk to people, he probably could have like turned like more people against Stickmin. Probably could have stopped his family from dying, etc., etc. Probably could have like kept his original girlfriend, which mind you would have led to a different life in the first place, I'm sure, but like he was so fucking bad at like explaining things to people. He really didn't explain anything. He never actually explained anything. There was one point where it seemed like he was going to, but then he got interrupted because they had a guest. And it ended up being Stickmin. And it's like, oh. I keep saying Stickmin. Isn't it Pikmin? Hold on. I think I keep getting the name wrong. I think I've been doing that like this entire time, this entire episode. It's Pikmin. I keep saying like Stickmin and stuff. I kept getting the name wrong. Also, this is based on a short story by H.P. Lovecraft, which I can honestly see. Um, which, H.P. Lovecraft was a racist piece of shit and had a lot of other issues, but um yeah, really interesting story and everything. The teleplay was by Lee Patterson, directed by Keith Thomas, um, who has directed like other horror films like The Vigil and Firestarter. So not Keith Thomas's like first foray into horror by any means, which yeah, you can definitely see. I keep saying Stickmin, but it's Pikmin. Yeah, I should remember because there's a game called Pikmin, spelled differently, obviously, but it's the same phonetic sound and everything. So I should remember it from that, but I just don't. So I'm sorry if you guys have been like yelling at the screen every time I got it wrong. But yeah, that was intense. It was very like frightening, and you couldn't tell what was real or not. You couldn't tell like if he was just like going crazy. There was actually a part of me, even up to like very close to the end, like while they're down in the basement of the house and everything. There's part of me thinking like right after he shot him, I'm like, is this going to be revealed that he's just been going crazy this entire time and like he just killed a man for no reason and everything? That nothing is actually happening here. I could see that happening. But then the demon comes out. It's like, oh no, no, this is real shit. Okay. But like, I was seriously thinking that like right before the demon came out, like right when he shot him and everything. Like, is this gonna end up being like he's just crazy, and he's just like seeing things and shit? That would have been wild. But no, they didn't go with that twist. That twist has been done too. I'm glad with what they went with, where it was all like this demonic influence and everything. It worked out, and again, it led to one crazy ass ending. So yeah, this was fantastic. But I'd love to hear what you think. Tell me in the comments below what are your thoughts on this episode, and thank you so much as always for tuning in. Also, before we close this out, I did notice something interesting. One Piece, the anime for One Piece is coming back on, I believe, April 6th. Which is like just after I'll have finished Cabinet of Curiosities. Like, I think the day after, April 6th is a Sunday. The day after should be my first day after I've already finished Cabinet of Curiosities, so I should be able to go right back into One Piece after Cabinet of Curiosities ends. It like the timing is just perfect. So that's a really fun little note too. So after Cabinet of Curiosities, we're probably just going straight back into One Piece with this slot, unless I'm wrong about the date and timing and everything, which I think I got it right. But we'll see. Either way, let me know your thoughts on this episode of Cabinet Curiosities down in the comments. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.